And first of all, just to say thank you, all of you, for coming along this afternoon. I hope you're going to find it useful and interesting. It will be hopefully as useful and interesting as you make it, because you're going to be in the driving seats, because we're going to do a few introductions now, but then we found after that that what works best is for people to ask questions and we respond to those questions. But first of all, what I'm going to do is to introduce the panel. And that's a combination of the IoIC course team, the master's course team, and then we have two of our alumni who have kindly come along to join us today. And who are probably the people you'll be most interested in hearing from, because they can give you the student's eye view of what the whole experience is like and what they gain from it. But to kick off, as I say, I'll do some introductions, and then I'll be handing over to you to ask your questions. So to start with, my name's Liz. I'm the course director of the programme. My background is in internal comms, in pharma and in the utilities in-house, and then I've been a consultant for many years, been in and increasingly focused on employee engagement, employee voice, and I've combined that for a long time with being both the course director and the leader of one of the modules, a module that focuses very much on organisational culture and leadership. So that is me, and I'm going to hand over next to Ollie.
Thanks, Liz, and hi everyone. Great to have you all on the call. I'm Ollie Howard. I'm module leader on the master's course for modules 2 and 3, and I'll say a little bit about what those cover in a second. My background is in internal communication management. I worked in a number of roles in the public and not-for-profit sector, mainly, either roles where my entire focus was on internal communication management, or where I was had a wider corporate communications brief. For the last 5 or 6 years, though, I've been working with the CIPD as their head of membership most of the time, and that's really interesting because I'm really passionate about the opportunity for HR teams and internal communications teams to work really effectively together, because when you have those two things working in harness, then you're able to build a really effective employee experience. So being able to combine my work on the masters with my work at the CIPD is something I really enjoy, and it's great to have those two things in combination. In terms of the bits of the masters that I deal with, I lead specifically on modules 2 and 3. Module 2, we really focus in on strategy and how internal communications teams can have an impact on organizational outcomes. We also look at how change is managed in organizations and the role that internal communicators can play in supporting that. And we look at the nature of the employment relationship and how, again, the role of communication is important in shaping that relationship and in managing the relationship between employer and employee. Then in module 3, we look at influence, in particularly the influence of the internal communicator within the organization in working with senior leaders. We look at the best models of partnering with senior leaders and exec teams in order to get communication happening in effective ways in organizations. And we look at rhetoric, discourse analysis, and what that can tell us about the art of persuasive communication and the use of language in communication. So that's all the stuff I cover. I'm sure we'll get into it more once we take the questions. Back to you, Liz.
Oh, Liz, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I realised, sorry. So yes, I'm going to hand over to Donma next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you. My name is Domna Lazidou. My background is also in internal communication management and consultancy. While working as an international consultant in internal communication, I found myself getting increasingly frustrated with how little we understood culture change, particularly in complex multinational environments. So I went off and did a PhD on the subject of communication and culture. And I have since been specializing in that area. So my both as an academic, so I teach on the topic of internal communication, global leadership, working in international teams. And also I work as a trainer and consultant in that area. I do a training course for the IoIC around communicating in culture change management. And within the course, I run module 4, which is about your own project. So by the time you're doing module 4, you would have done all the wonderful things that Liz and Ollie do with you. So you will be ready to put them into practice by researching a topic that interests you in your own organization, or if you are not working in a particular company, in an organization of a client or your peers potentially. So that's what we are doing in module 4. So you start by identifying the topic you want to investigate, and then we walk you through how to do that in a robust way. So in the along the journey, you learn how to do research properly. And that is something that you will take with you, not just in the course of producing your final project, but also in your career after that. And of course, I also see you in the first, during the first module, when we do culture and leadership together.
Okay.
So that's me. I don't know, have I covered everything I needed to cover?
That was smashing. Thank you very much, Donna. And now I'm going to hand over briefly to Emily as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Darling, Professional Development Manager at the IoIC. So for the Masters, I manage the administration of the programme and I'm the primary liaison with Solent University. I also support with the admissions process. So if any of you do go ahead and want to apply, I'll support you with that process and then support you throughout your Masters journey. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent, thank you. And we've got another couple of members of the team who can't be with us today. Ranjit Sidhu, who is a change specialist, and change and stakeholder management, and she again is a consultant and trainer, and she works with Ollie on assignments on modules 2 and 3 to give a really specialist insight on change and on topics like influence as well. And then Jenny Davenport, who along with me has been a long time member of the team. She's pulling back more now, but she continues to give support and help with things like assignment writing, etc. And so if you join the programme, I'm sure you'll be coming across Jenny at some point as well. And her background is, again, long time communication consultant, and was managing director of People in Business, who were the consultancy who invented the whole concept of employer branding. So that's the team, but more importantly, our alumni. And I'm going to go to David first.
Thanks, Liz, and hello, everyone. I'm David, and I work in internal communications for Transport for London. And one of the reasons I'm probably being asked to come along to this course is, to this talk, is because obviously completed the course over the year and a bit, and I'm a really big advocate for it. I thought it was had a massive influence on me, not only at the end, but also throughout the course. So I can't speak highly enough of it. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to help. I've been in internal comms for well over a decade. As I say, I'm with Transport for London at the minute, dealing with some quite difficult audiences and quite big internal communication challenges. So yeah, maybe more on that if anyone's got any questions, but that's me.
Fantastic. And I'm sure they will do, David. I'm sure both you and Dovile will be very busy. And next, Dovile, over to you.
Hello everyone, I'm Dovile Green. I head up communication and engagement team at the University of Glasgow. I'm very closely aligned with Estates Directorate and our ongoing capital development program, and I work with quite a operational focused colleagues, which are desk lists for security and like cleaning, to architects and very much professional audiences. So the course was incredibly helpful to bring those two together. I have 2 members of staff that work in my team, and I am similar to David, soon to be the grad of this program.
Fantastic. Right, so that's our introductions done. And I think we will go straight on to finding out what it is you want to learn about. And what we've found over the years is what works best for this is if you start to pop your questions into the chat function, please. And then Ollie, who is our facilitator extraordinaire, will sort of theme those in astonishing speed. It's the speed of light, and start to farm out questions to each of us. And by all means, if you then have supplementary questions, do just speak up and say so. But if to start with, pop your questions in the chat. No question is too difficult. Well, it might be, but no question's too difficult to ask. You can see whether or not you can ask one that's too difficult for us to answer.
Yeah, so absolutely anything it'd be helpful to have more information on, just pop it in the chat right now and we'll start fielding those to members of the team. This is the bit where we need music.
I was going to say, we need some elevator music now.
Yeah, waiting for it's.
Right, so let's start with the first one, and I'll keep an eye on the others as people add them in. And this is one we get every single time, which is around how much time commitment it represents in terms of the modules themselves and the assignments, and general impact on time. So let's start by going to David and Dovile, who've done this before. So they'll give you a real sense of what it's like in terms of how much time the Masters does take up. David, let me start with you.
Yeah, thanks for that. So if I just give you a bit of background for me, I did say, I hope you can hear me. I had a little bit of a churn there on the Wi-Fi. So my role, as I said, I work in Transport for London, so it's quite a busy role, large audience, full time. And I've also got 2 small children as well. So that adds another element to it. I know a number of people who did the Masters last year, when we did, had children as well, which adds another dimension. I'm sure all of you will be familiar with that who do have children, but also battling other things like family issues and things like that. So I think what I would say is, in terms of time commitments, it is a commitment. There's no point shying away from that, but I've found it quite manageable, depending on, once you get into the rhythm of it. We have workshops before each module, and that you get a clear steer from those as to what is expected from you. And then obviously you've got deadlines you need to meet. But I think for each, speaking to the cohort, we actually had quite a tight cohort. We had a big WhatsApp group, which it was absolutely amazing in terms of support. And when people were feeling under pressure in terms of time, it was good just to find out where other people were. I found it easier to balance in terms of using some weekends, not all weekends, but I found that easier just because obviously having a busy day job and with the kids with school pickups and things like that, and when they're in the evenings. But it wasn't every weekend, and it certainly wasn't, overwhelming in terms of time. Obviously, when you get close to deadline, the time commitment's ramped up. But what I would say is that Ollie and Liz and Donma, and whoever is helping you through your individual sort of module, they're always on hand and they'll get back to you quite quickly to help you with questions. So really, as long as you can carve out, I don't know, people would say how many times, how much time a week would you need to do this? I would say you can't really answer that, because it'll depend on how quick you work and how familiar you are with academic literature and reference and things like that. Will depend on how much time it takes. But I would say for each module, I would say you're looking at least a few weekends of your time, and a few hours on a Saturday and a Sunday would suffice, obviously with reading throughout the week, but everyone's different. Sorry, Ollie, I think
Thank you, David. You're right. Yes, everyone is different. That is absolutely true. And so, Dovile, say a bit about what it was like for you.
Yeah, no, David, I agree with you. It's definitely a commitment, but it's one where you sometimes start losing sense of how much time you're actually spending. There's a lot of interesting reading that you end up doing, and then just a couple hours just disappear. So because it was, for me, the studies and work it were really intertwined. They were the blurring of the boundaries happened, where I was doing assignments that were very much connected to what I was doing at work. So it felt like a lot of study time and work time became kind of intertwined. I was trying to think about how much time I've spent, and I can't recall, but you do end up using a lot of your sort of free time, not all free time, as David said, but a lot of your free time to look things up and explore deeper. But it really depends on what you yourself want to get out of it. I really enjoyed particular elements of the studying and ended up in this rabbit hole of looking things up. So it just really depends. On that sort of basic level, you do dedicate a day a week, I think, for myself.
David, do you have something to add?
Just to Lisa's point in terms of being done in your own time, I think Dovile made a great point there in terms of the actual modules, depending on what your job is in your internal communications team or the business you're working in. I actually was using the work I was doing in the course actually in real life. So, for example, we had to launch a communications strategy for a 5-year plan in London Underground. Well, just so happened that the module was on that, so actually I was doing it actually as part of my role. And you'll find a lot of the modules, the stuff that you're doing, will actually hopefully be of interest to your business area, and you can weave the modules in, the work you do in the modules, into actual work itself. So it's not always in your free time, depending on what your role is and what stage of your communications journey you're on. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that point.
Thanks. Thanks, Dovile, for your response as well. I think that those are both great breakdowns of the different ways it can fit in with your life and how you can approach the work. Liz, it might be helpful at this point to say a little bit about the structure of the program in terms of how many days people have to commit to workshops and what sort of range it can then be in terms of the coursework.
Okay, so in broad terms, there are 4 modules, and each module kicks off with a 2-day workshop. And in that workshop, what we're doing is we kind of distill down, right, what's the key stuff you really need to know to be, then completing your assignments for that that module, and obviously that will be useful for you in your lives. So there's those 2 days. In module 1, there's actually an additional day for induction, and during induction we spend quite a bit of time talking about our expectations and giving you hints and tips on how to be studying as effectively as possible. So, for example, Dovile said that, the sort of the temptation is you start reading something and you think, oh, this is fascinating, I really want to read all of this. And one of the things we'll keep saying to you is, be ruthless, go in, look at something, come straight out. You've got the rest of your life to read the rest of that book. And we'll give you all sorts of guidance that will be helpful there. So we've got as I say, in module 1 we have induction, 2-day workshop, and there's a voluntary assignment writing workshop at the end of that week as well, which is voluntary, but every year people say you should make it compulsory. It's really good. And we give loads more hints and tips and help there. So that's the first one. The modules 2 and 3 are each, again, a 2-day workshop to start with. All 3 of those modules also have a couple of short online sessions the following week. Those are generally with kind of guest speakers who are kind of thought leaders in the field. Then when we get to module 4, again, with module 4, actually we have a half-day online workshop just at the very end of July, and then a 2-day workshop in September. So that's the time you need to take out from, sort of work time, office time. Over and above that, obviously there are the assignments that you'll be writing. David's already alluded to the fact that, and Dovile, that we've designed the assignments so that you're applying them to your working lives. So the first one, for example, is about a bit of doing a kind of cultural assessment of the organisation and the implications for internal communication. Then you're writing and critiquing a communication strategy. Then you're thinking about the key stakeholder that you really want to be influencing and thinking about how you're going to do that. Those are sort of the 3 major assignments. And then you get to choose a project in module 4, all of your own. Now there you've got, sort of about 7 or 8 weeks to be researching and writing that. We've given you the basics in the workshop, so you're reading round and building on that. And as David's already said, we're very much there to be supporting through that process as well. And I know David and Dovile both sort of had a go at saying how long it takes. I know because I've asked this question to students over many years now, and I'd say on average, and it does depend, people will say something like a day at the weekend and maybe an evening or couple of evenings during the week is kind of the average that assignment writing process takes. There's one major assignment for each of the first 3 modules and one minor one, which they vary a bit, but they generally involve the discussion board where you can all be talking to each other, sharing theory, commenting on theory, applying it to your organisations, and then there'll be a little assessment task that'll come off the back of that as well. But again, I think that gives you a feel for the timings. Does that help, or have I really confused things? Because there was
No, that was super helpful. That was a load of really useful information. But if anyone needs any more clarity on any of those things, then just let us know. Either pop your hand up or put it in the chat and we can cover it again. But yeah, essentially that's the shape of the programme. Now, there've been a couple of questions here around assessment types and whether there are any group projects. It probably is a helpful point to cover off those as well, because they're related to what you just said, Liz. I'll say a bit about group projects first. So as Liz just outlined, we have 3 assessments, and they're the smaller assessments that we run, but 3 that run over the course of the programme, where you will participate in some discussion boards, which means you've got opportunities to develop your thinking together as a group, bounce off each other, share ideas and sources, and learn as a group. They are individually assessed though, so we don't have any assessments within the programme where there's a group assessment. It's an opportunity for you to work together in order to tailor the submission that you will give us and be individually assessed on. Also, I would add to that there's loads of opportunities in the workshops for you to work as a group, learn from each other, make connections with other students. It's one of the real strengths of the program. As David said already, we've had a few groups of students in recent years where they've just become very close to each other over the course of the program and have continued learning from each other even after the master's is finished. So that's one of the real benefits of it, I think. And then there was a question around whether we have any exams alongside the kind of assignment writing challenges as well. So Liz, do you want to just cover that one off?
Okay. No, we don't do exams. They're not the most helpful things in the world, you know, sort of levels of recall, etc. That's not really what it's about. They are very much assignments designed to get you to take the theory that you'll be learning and really apply it. And so, for example, looking at the communication strategy assignment, which our current group of students have just finished, what they've done is to actually put together a real life strategy and sort of with taking account of some of the guidance that we've given them in the workshop, or elements of that strategy, and then they are critiquing that to explain, well, what's behind this? You know, why have we done this? What's the psychology behind it? What are the other factors behind it that mean that we've looked at different options, different choices, and what we have decided to do? So it's really getting you to think through in depth the rationale for doing something, having a really strong evidence base underneath it as well. We make sure that that everything you say is really supported by sources, by evidence, etc. And it's, I would say, the other real benefit of it is it's really honing those those analytical muscles. Because one of the things, you know, the reason that people do the masters is because they're either in strategic roles now or they want to be moving into those strategic roles. And the things that really makes you successful, I think, when you get into those senior positions in organizations is a combination of having really good business acumen, but being able to think in a really analytical way, because senior managers respond to that. You can be really adding value then over and above the internal communication knowledge you have. So that's really what we're trying to do with those assignments, I would say. But as I've said, we're on hand to help at every stage of that process. So don't let me put you off by making it sound frightening. We are pretty good at giving support. Donma, do you want to talk a little bit about the management report and what people will be doing there?
Yes, actually, and there was also a question about that. So the final assignment, which we call a management report, where you do your own research project in your own organization or a client organization. This is a more substantial piece of research. So we don't give you the question, you define your own question, your own topic. We help you through that. Each of you will have a tutor who helps you through your thinking. And you will have enough time, you have about 12 weeks or so to do the whole project. So the question was, do we just get to define the project or do we get to complete it? You do get to complete it. So you start from defining the topic, identifying the topic, defining the research question, and then going on to think about the methodology, identify, do the research design, actually do the research, you know, interviews, whatever you decide to do, analyze your data, and then write it up and present it. So that report is your original research written up in a kind of it's an academic piece of work, but it also has hybrid elements of a business management report. So you'll have to show that you understand how to do academic research, but also it's very useful because it's about you understanding a real topic, a real problem in your organization and how to address it through communication in depth. Now, it's quite possible that if you're really ambitious and what you want to do is a big piece of work that doesn't fit within that time scale, the advice we will give you and the guidance we will give you is to focus it so that you can complete it within the time. And so you might decide that, so effectively, you might end up doing part of what you want to do in order to complete a good piece of work for your final report, and then build on that and continue to work on it in your organization afterwards. So that will really depend on what you're interested in and what you want to do, what your problem is that you're addressing. But you will definitely complete a piece of work that is of practical importance and interest in the course of doing of those 12 weeks.
Lovely. Oh, sorry, Liz, go ahead.
Can I just add to that? You reminded me, Donna, the thing I didn't say about the first 3 main assignments is that all of them, you have a really kind of theory into practice focus. So by the end of it, you have some practical conclusions and recommendations that you can take and apply in the organisation, because we're not interested in academic stuff for academics' sake. It's ultimately it's all about, you know, sort of really focusing on enhancing your communication practice and communication in your organizations. Sorry, back over to you, Ollie.
Thanks, Liz. Yes, and it's absolutely that. It's not even the end. We have students who've just gone through module 2 talking to us about the way they've been able to apply the things that conclusions they arrived at in their module 2 assignments on strategy into things that are happening live in their organization. So as David described, it can help you with the work you're doing right now, and that's efficient. So the more of that, the better. Emily, we're going to come to you for Finance Corner. So let's cover how often do people tend to self-finance versus being financed by their organisation? Let's cover that one first, then we'll come on to the apprenticeships levy.
Great. So it does depend on the cohorts, but I'd normally say it's around 60% are funded by their organisation, around 40% are self-funding, but it really does vary per cohort because we run it once a year. If self-funding, we can offer interest-free flexible payment plans. Basically, if someone needs to self-fund, we want to be able to support them to do that. So we can offer set part payment plans or monthly payment plans to spread right across the course of the program, and the fee does include everything you'll need aside from maybe buying, if you want to buy your own or additional texts, but you'd be a fully enrolled student with Stone University, have access to all their resources, their incredible library, their amazing librarian who he always gets a gold star. He is incredible. So the fee for the course, that is the fee, that's kind of the headline fee. If you are looking to get funding for your organization and want any support with a business case, do come to us. But everything that the team have been mentioning today, I mean, it really is about that practical application and the value, not only for your own development, but for the development of the organization. We'd always really recommend that underpinning any business case you present. Hopefully that helps.
Remind people of the cost and clarify whether or not it can be levy funded as well, please, Emily.
So it's £7,150 plus VAT for the programme. And unfortunately, it is not an apprenticeship degree, so it is not eligible for apprenticeship levy funding, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Emily. Look, 2 things I'd add to that. Firstly, in terms of master's programmes, you can go out there, compare yourself. It's really good value versus most comparable master's programs in business management. We appreciate it's a massive outlay for individuals, but we do try and keep the price as competitive as we can. We work really hard on that. And secondly, the support that Emily gives people in helping to secure organisational funding and work their way through the application process is amazing, and people say that every year. So any questions that you've got about that process of getting onto the programme and funding yourself through it, Emily will help you with and will give you some amazing support.
And one other thing I should add, as master students, you also are eligible for free IoIC membership throughout the course. So you would be able to join as a member. So that's free for you during the program.
Good.
And I believe you get to become a student union member and get all sorts of discounts and benefits from that. But Dovile and David will be able to answer those better than us because we don't get that.
You'd be fully fledged students. You have a student ID. You can go and get that funding. I think it's changed now from NUS to something else. Again, David or Dovile might know better than I, but yeah, you are fully fledged students.
David, you look like you have something you want to say on being a student.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that student discounts aren't what they were back in the old days. So unfortunately, everyone's So don't get too excited about that. But what I would say about and you maybe come to this, but quite a few of us, in terms of cost and things like that, quite a few people in our cohort have been promoted as a result of doing the MA. So it is, if you're thinking about cost, some people have already financially benefited from doing this course in terms of their own prospects and their own job promotions. I'm not saying that's a given, and it's different for everyone, but it's worth considering.
It happens very frequently. I saw one on LinkedIn yesterday. So it's it's definitely something. And we have VMA, probably aware, but the biggest recruitment agency working on specialist internal communication practice. They come in and talk to students every year. They're all very clear that they see this as something that really makes candidates stand out versus other people with comparable experience. So thank you, David. Appreciate you adding that. And while I have you, David, somebody's asked about what other support other than the financial side you can get from your employer, or you asked for from your employer. So say a bit about how your employer supported you through your studies.
Yeah, so I think it's important to be upfront and clear with the organisation. Once you get the details, Liz has outlined, I guess, the workshops in terms of that time commitment, also the induction as well. I think it's being upfront and honest. But what I would say for me is I ended up using less study days because some of the work was so intertwined with what I was doing in real life that actually I didn't need to justify it as a study day because, for example, pulling together a communication strategy, that's what I'm doing in my role anyway. So I found that I didn't actually use as many as I thought I would, but my organisation did ask for a number of how many days per year I would need to do it. I know other people have mentioned, sorry, Ollie, jumping slightly to it, but some of the workshops, some people have asked if they can have to do them in person or they're online. Obviously you can answer that, but most people were in person, but some people did join it online. But I actually personally found it so much more helpful to be there in person. Everyone's different. And obviously that's a time commitment from your, your organization that you'll need to get. So, yeah, that's
Thank you, David. We'll jump to that question and explore online versus in-person attendance in a second, because you're right, so it's an interesting one and there are different benefits for people. Dovile, before we do that, say a little bit about how it worked with your employer and what support you got.
Yeah, of course. So I had an incredibly supportive line manager who really gave me the time off to attend the workshops. I'm based in Edinburgh, so it was quite a bit of travel time. So they really encouraged and supported that, as well as getting some study leave days. And that was, I've only used study leave days for the management report, which was also something I've used work time for when conducting interviews with for my research. So time is probably what is the best thing to ask from employer in terms of support. And also I've built quite a bit of different types of relationships within the organization through doing the different assignments. In particular, the assignment, I think it was 3, where it was about influence. So we had a new executive director join, and my assignment focused on relationship with them. So they gave me quite a bit of their time, and it continued. This relationship continued through once I finished.
Lovely, thanks, Dovile. Okay, so let's come on to that question of how. Firstly, a few people have asked around international attendance. So the program is available to you wherever you are in the world. Liz, say a bit about where we've had people from and how the experience works for people joining outside the UK.
Well, it's a real shame that we fixed the session for today, because I actually was asked one of our alumni from last year who is based in Utah to join us in the session today, but she'd taken the day off to go orienteering with her son. So she's somewhere in the Californian hills at the moment, I think. But yeah, we've had people from the States, we've had people from Canada, UAE, we've had people from there, quite a few from different parts of particularly Northern Europe. I'm thinking Finland, Netherlands, Germany, France, starting to run out of countries.
South Africa.
South Africa, yes, you're quite right, South Africa. So we have had a wide range of students from different countries. Depending on the time differences, that can mean if you want to join the sessions live, and we do recommend that, it can mean an early start. We've had our Canadian and US colleagues join with matchsticks in their eyes because it's something like 5 o'clock in the morning. But what we've done since COVID is we've made the sessions hybrid throughout, and so every session is always one where you can join virtually if you wish to do so. As David said, the majority of people join face to face, but that does make it so much easier for people who are from other countries to be joining. And some people will join online for the entire thing, others will maybe come over for one workshop. We also record every session, so if you're either too sleep deprived to remember everything that happened, or you don't make it for the very start of a session, then you would always have the opportunity to catch up. And I mentioned that for each workshop we have some brief each session online sessions that are maybe an hour and a half or a couple of hours each. The week after the main workshop, obviously there's nothing to preclude anyone joining that from anywhere in the world. The other thing I'd say is we work as hard as we can to make sure that if you're joining online, you really feel you're part of the experience. Because I think we've all had experience of joining things online where most people are face to face, and you feel like you're just the person that's looking into the room rather than feeling part of it. But we really work hard to make sure that when we're sort of discussing things in plenary, we're asking questions to the room and we're asking questions to our online colleagues. We have lots of discussion groups where we'll have our face-to-face people in groups in the room, but we'll have our online students again in a discussion group of their own and feeding back from that, so people can really feel that they're part of the experience overall. And Ollie, because you're our tech guru, you always sort us out whenever there are any glitches. Anything that you would add in terms of our blended sort of hybrid blended learning approach generally?
Well, Liz, I'm glad you asked. It's I would say that we have learnt a lot over the last few years since COVID, when we were kind of forced into this. We have been through a lot of the teething troubles that we've had with how we use technology to make the sessions work. And I think now, based on the feedback that we're getting, the experience for people who do dial in for the sessions is really positive one. So I think if you dial in, you'll get all of the learning. You'll get to participate in the workshops. You'll get to know other students. All of those things will still happen for you. If you're able to come along, as David described, for the workshops, whether that's flying over for 1 or 2 of them, or whether that's being able to travel from within the UK, then you just get you get that additional human connection that's much easier when you're all in the same room, which adds a bit of the experience for people, but it's additive rather than it being a bad experience that turns into a good one. It's all good. It's that little bit better if you can make it in for the workshops. David, something you want to add on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, and just away from slightly from what you're offering in terms of the course, the WhatsApp groups that we, as a cohort, you get together. Actually, the international people all become one sort of. I'm not going to use the word family; sound like Fast and Furious. But you all become like a really tightly knit group, and obviously with WhatsApp being the way it is with different groups and stuff like that. So we're all very close on our cohort, and there was people, as I said, from Utah and Finland and Netherlands and other parts of the world. So it's that you can't underestimate that as well in terms of not only connections with fellow IC professionals, but also supporting each other through the group, through the course, and making everyone feel welcome.
Lovely. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And yeah, again, one of the really strong elements of the program is how close you get to the other students learning alongside you and in those jobs doing and faced with similar challenges to you. So you get that as well, wherever you are in the world. I'm going to come to questions about eligibility criteria and application process in a minute. I'll come back to you for those, Liz. But before I do, Domino, we've had a follow-up question on the management report, which is to do with whether that has to be on your own organisation, or are there other ways you can approach choosing your research topic?
It doesn't have to be on your own organisation. There will be people who are not currently working, for example, or there will be people whose job is, being a consultant, so they have a very small organization and they want to apply something to a bigger company. So it's not necessary. However, if you are working in an organization big enough for you to investigate meaningfully, we would strongly recommend that you do your research in your own organization. So if you can't, there are other options. You can use a client organization, obviously with their agreement. You could work with your peers. One of your peers could give you access to their organizations. You could even work with a group of peers online, for example, on LinkedIn. Depending on your topic. If you do work within an organization and you don't want to do your research there, I would say you're probably making your life too difficult for yourself, because it will be easier. Knowing your organization gives you a good start to your project. You have people who will help you, who will facilitate access to the people you need to interview. You will already have done in previous assignments some research that you can utilize as part of your original business case, your original argument for the research. So you wouldn't want to throw it away. So not knowing exactly where the question is coming from, I'm not sure whether I'm answering it completely or not. So please come back. Who was it who asked the question?
Shannon George.
Shannon, what was in your mind when you asked it? And have I answered it?
Yes, I think you have answered it. Just thinking in terms of organizations, mine may not be the best one to kind of research in terms of culture, in terms of interviews and that kind of thing. So and just kind of explore all different possibilities for that management report. Say, okay, maybe my organization is not the best to be doing that on. Are there other ways to do that? And if so, great. If not, just need to think about kind of how that would work out,
Yes, so there are other options. You have that conversation with your supervisor early on. It depends why you are saying my organization is not the best. I think what's on your mind. Is it because you feel they will be generally reluctant to give you access?
Yeah, just kind of
two people to
culture,
interview.
yeah, culture and maybe reluctance to give information and access. Yeah, yeah.
So yes, so depending again, so we'll have to think about what your options are there, but there will be other options, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
What some students have done is they've actually taken a topic and they've looked at, they've interviewed a range of other internal communication managers to that, you know, their approach on to that particular element of internal comms. I'm just thinking, Ollie, I know you had someone a couple of years ago that did that, and I can't remember what the topic area was, but I know it was an interesting assignment that he did.
Yeah, they looked at supporting line managers, I think.
Right.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. Look, there's always a way. So one of the nice things about the management report in particular is that you'll be supported by one of the course team members individually through that process, through thinking about the topic, framing your research questions, deciding how you're going to approach your research, and then reviewing drafts. So you'll have someone on hand who you can bounce all of these questions off, and there will be answers for sure. Okay, let me move to a couple of the questions that have just come in, then we'll come back to those questions around applications and eligibility. Our in-person workshops in Southampton, they're not in general, they're in London. So we run them in central London to make travel easier for people. In general, that works out a lot better for most people. You'll go to Southampton, certainly for the induction day. So once at the very beginning of the program, that's in November. And then you'll have the option to go down for graduation at the end as well. So they tend to be the 2 times we see students in Southampton, but the rest of the time it's in London or remotely. And dates of workshops, are they available somewhere online now, Emily? Yeah, they are.
They are, but also they're on the website. But also, what I'll do is after this, when I send around the notification of the recording, I'll include the link there for you. So the workshop dates are available.
Lovely. So you can work out whether or not it fits in with your schedule 12 to 18 months from now, if it's helpful to do so. I know my diary's starting to get that way. So let's come back to what I think are the last outstanding questions, but I will throw open to everyone at the end to just check. So firstly, what's the application process for those without an undergraduate degree, Liz? Talk through that.
Okay, so it's absolutely no inhibitor if you don't have a degree. And in fact, one of the things that I find really interesting is very often it's the people who haven't got a degree that will end up actually doing the best on the masters overall, and there's all sorts of hypotheses I could have around that, but I think we put a lot of emphasis on supporting everybody. But in particular, if you don't have an undergraduate degree, when you apply, like everybody else, what you'll need to do is to send in some various different examples of types of work that you've done, an application form. I'll interview you off the back of that application form, and then I'll actually set you a sample assignment to do. And I think it's such a brilliant opportunity. I use it as a coaching opportunity. So I'll go through it with you, send it over, send you some materials that you can use to be, you know, sort of doing your research around. And then I just keep sort of coaching, and we'll go to and fro, and you'll have a go at a section, send it to me, I'll give you some feedback, send it back to you, and we just keep going until you're at a pass level, which means that by the time you actually start, you've really kind of tuned into what the expectations are for the program. And actually, I think one of the advantages is because every program is a tiny bit to it's, you know, every program's a tiny bit different in what it expects. You'll be really tuned into exactly what we're expecting, whereas everybody else will be catching up as in a combination of induction day and the assignment writing day. So that's basically the process that you would go through.
Gary says he's never been so pleased to not have a degree. So that sounds like I actually did this. So I did the course that turned into the masters. I did 15 years ago, a postgrad diploma in internal communication management, which is when Liz and I met actually. And that was the first thing I had to do because I didn't have an undergraduate degree. The process of going through it was so helpful in helping me to understand what to expect from the rest of the program. So I think it can be a real advantage actually, and a really useful exercise to go through. Thanks for attending, Shannon George. Really appreciate that. Okay, so last one then, Liz. And after that, I'm going to come to David and Dovile. I'm going to ask them for the biggest thing that they've got out of it. So I'm giving you a kind of couple of minutes warning, David and Dovile. That's what I'm going to ask. Liz, in terms of the level of experience and the type of experience people should have for the course to be right for them, outline that a little bit.
Okay, so the programme sort of aligns with levels 3 and 4 in the profession map. If you're familiar with the IoIC profession map, which is available on the IoIC website and is thoroughly recommended to all. So it's really looking at communication from a strategic perspective. And so we do expect you to have, a decent level of experience before you join the program, and that's what the whole the whole kind of application process is designed to test. So you would either be working at a strategic level right now and looking to kind of underpin what you're doing and just, get some fresh ideas on what you're doing as well, or you're experienced at kind of managing communication generally, and you really want to take that step up to get into that, to get up to that strategic level, and you're ready to be doing that. So that's really where it is. So if your focus is on, for example, learning, around managing different channels to the the highest degree, that wouldn't be the masters. That would be more probably the advanced diploma. But it's when you want to be in that kind of senior advisory role, and you're there already, or you're looking to get up there. Does everyone think that's a fair assessment of where people would be? Dovile and David, does that ring true for you from your experiences? Yeah, nods for that, right? Good.
Everyone's nodding. I think you answered that question, Liz. Great. So I'm going to come to David and Dovile and ask what's the biggest thing you got out of the masters? Why would you recommend it to other prospective students? Dovile, let me come to you on that one first.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard to answer sort of one way because it really impacted multiple levels of my personal and professional work. But I think really when I reflect back is it made my work a lot more meaningful. My advice is much more grounded in research, and I know where to find it much better, and my critical thinking really improved. So has my confidence in speaking up and really using the knowledge I gained in the course to influence the conversations that I'm having at work. And another big highlight is that expanded network. A lot of the way I see internal communication roles is it's quite a lonely profession. Like, personally, I have colleagues that report to me, but there isn't anyone at my level within the people that I work with that specifically focuses on IC. So having this huge network now of colleagues that I can go to and speak about challenges that we're facing has been absolutely invaluable. And we supported, David mentioned this, we supported each other both, through studies, but then also, personally shared and became friends for, I think, life. So both the academic side was incredibly useful. I grew as a person, how confident I am in what I'm doing, and then you just expand your network. So it's not one answer.
That's great. Thanks, Davila. And no, that's wonderful. And I think all of those things we just hear time and again from students. So it's great. It's great to hear them, though. David, add to that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo a lot of those points. I think just a good example of, I guess, in a bit to the early point that Liz was talking around. I went to the induction in Southampton, and I was expecting to have a few sandwiches, meet a few people, have a nice little day. And on the train home, I was absolutely shattered. And it was because of my brain was working in a completely different way than it had been for the decades that I've been doing this job. And I think many people on this call are probably, you've been in internal comms for a long time. You end up your brain adjusts to that work. You kind of know what you're talking about. You know how to, what stakeholders want and what you want as a business, your business wants from you. But I think this just takes it to such another level. And that induction, I only say that because my brain was tired at the end of each module, each workshop. I was actually shattered, and I thought, why am I so tired? Because I would do more in a day's work than I feel like I'm doing here, but you're not, because your brain's working in a completely different way. So I think that's just a good way of explaining it. And I think from each module, when I'm sitting in with directors and managing directors, I'm talking to them in a completely, not a completely different way, but certainly in a different way that I would have been previously, because I'm articulating arguments that are based on research, and it's just looking at things in a different way. And as an internal communications professional, everyone in your organization will have their own thoughts on you and internal comms. They maybe don't like internal comms, they don't respect internal comms, or maybe they love internal comms. Everyone has different stakeholders that have different opinions on us as a profession. But certainly each module just gives you those tools to speak in such an informed way, and you get more respect as a result, and your confidence builds, and you can sit in with leaders and talk in a way that actually, you're talking at things that they may not even realize, and you're actually adding value, which I think for me is the biggest thing, adding that extra layer of value that you wouldn't be able to if you weren't really diving into internal comms theory and application like you do on this course. So for me, that's, as a professional, it's certainly bumped me up to another level, and I couldn't speak more highly of it.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate that. And look, that's what we love doing. We appreciate the critical role that internal communicators play in organizations, the hugely challenging role that it can be at times, and the thankless tasks that you get given. We want to put you in a position where you're able to elevate your work, really contribute to organizational impact, and be recognized and rewarded for doing so. That's why we run the program. Before we finish off, does anyone have any final questions? Last opportunity to ask us anything else you would like to know from us. Just pop your hand up or unmute. We'd love to hear anything else we can help with.
Hey, can anybody hear me?
Hi, Tanny. Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, Oli, thank you. So this has been really informative, really good information. So really appreciate everything, guys. And I was wondering, all this really good material that we learned today, is it going to be available, kind of like the stuff that you guys could put like on like a document, like a lot of this good information you've relayed to us today?
Emily, where is all the stuff people need?
Well, you'll have this recording. So this will be your go-to. Everything we've covered, we'll set once this is processed, I'll send a notification to everyone. You'll have this recording, so I just recommend coming back to this. You'll also have the course schedule, so you can check those dates. Obviously, put all the information on the website, and that includes a breakdown of the course curriculum, the course team, lots of things we've covered. But if anything you're not sure on, or you have any questions, just come directly back to myself and I can help and answer those. So hopefully you'll get most things you need, but anything specific or that you need, come to me. And I also know Liz loves having chats, informal chats with prospective students. So if you're thinking about it, you're not sure if you're eligible, or you're not sure about the curriculum, just come to me and I will organise a chat with you and Liz, and she loves it. I'm not just saying that. So so yes, you have that opportunity as well.
Great. Thanks, Emily.
Absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth, Emily. That was exactly what I was going to say next.
Any final ones? I'll give it another few seconds.
Thank you, Ollie, and thanks,
Okay.
Liz, Domna, Emily, Dovile, and David. Thank you all for your contributions and exciting me even more. I didn't think it was possible to get more excited at this stage of my career, but I happen to be riding along on the crest of a wave, and this course has come up at the exact right time to carry me along that wave. So, and actually, my question has been answered by the previous questioner, Tani. Thank you, because I will come to you, Emily, about funding. I'm going to make an application to my business to pay for the course, and I have a strong business case that I know I will make, and I've lined up the finance director who is on board, so I'm pretty confident that we can get there. And Liz, I'll come to you as well, because I will need to get through one of those assessments, but also I'm very confident that I have the right examples to evidence in a strong way, and if not, I'm sure you're going to help me get there. So I'll come to you both earlier rather than later, but I just wanted to say thank you all and look forward to catching up with you again.
Thanks, Gary.
You too.
Music to our ears, Gary. It really is. Thank you. Good. Well, if that's everything, then I think we'll let you all go at this point. Liz, closing thoughts for people, please.
Oh, goodness me! You should have given me notice of that, like you did with Dovile and David earlier. Yeah, do think about it. You probably picked up. We're really passionate about it. We're passionate about internal communication, and we're passionate about this program. I think the other thing I'd say is we're constantly learning. We're constantly learning as a course team on this program. And a lot of that is, obviously we're constantly reading and stuff, but we're constantly learning from our students because we spend so much time, we consult people almost to death about how the program's meeting their needs, you know, whether the topics are, etc., are absolutely what you need to have. We work really closely with IoIC on that as well to make sure that we're really kind of hitting the spot as far as all the key things that are coming up. And I think the thing I get from students more than anything else is, oh wow, it's just so great to be part of a community that cares so passionately about this and that really wants to be, each of us individually, pushing ourselves to be the best internal communication professionals we can be, because we're forging the way. You know, we're still a baby profession, really, and you know, with every cohort of alumni that go out into the world, so it's all really building the standards for this profession that just makes such a difference to organisations and to people that work in it. So I think I'm the luckiest person in the world, really, working on this.
We all are, Liz. We all are. Amen to that. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time this afternoon. We really hope to see some of you when we get around to induction day, and do contact Emily with any of those final questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.